All right, here we go. So this is a standing agenda item for the commission to receive any new regulation change petitions and to act on petitions to change any regulations that have been received at the public at previous meetings. The focus of this item today is on the 20 marine protected area petitions that were received by the commission in December. I want to note that also there was that I realized that in the staff report, there was not, I don't think I see it. There was an update on outreach to tribes. The commission requested that that staff send a letter out to tribes inviting them to specifically to be able to submit any change proposals that they would like to. So far, we have not heard back from tribes, any tribes directly, but I understand that there is interest from at least one tribe that just had limited time to go before their council and get authorization to submit or provide a statement of intent. So we have responded to explain that it's open for tribes to provide requests at any time, and there's not a hard cut off. And so I think the commission would welcome additional suggestions from tribes. Meanwhile, we do have 20 petitions before you today for your consideration. For 17 of those 20 petitions, there are multiple requested changes that are bundled into a single document, which is consistent with the commission's request to consolidate the proposals. And department project staff collaborated and began developing an itemized list of individual proposed changes. And there's actually over 85 of those individual proposals embedded within those 20. And so to help support an understanding of what's actually being proposed, that is complementary to the wealth of information and supporting documentation that each petitioner has provided in the individual exhibits. The table in Exhibit B2 lays those out individually and provides kind of its own tracking number that's associated with the petition tracking number, and recognizing also that some of these might be on a different trajectory for analysis and evaluation compared to others, and that recommendations that the department or commission explores could be unique to those individual pieces. So I just want to also recap previous guidance provided by the commission regarding an evaluation process for petitions in August of 2023. It's amazing that it's been that long. The commission expressed support for department use of a framework, an evaluation framework of considerations to assist in its evaluation of petitions the commission receives related to the network. The considerations were include a range of components consistent with the Marine Life Protection Act. And I would add that I think it intended to include the master plan for marine protected areas, which showcases the science and a whole range of guidance for both considering proposals and for ongoing management. So a summary of the evaluation framework and considerations is available in a link in your materials. I also, in our staff report, we did note that the Marine Resources Committee, that a March discussion of individual petitions may be premature because the department will, our staff recommendation is to refer all of the petitions to the department. There's a very short period of time between now and March for the department to even really commence its review and coalescing around different types of evaluations that will be necessary. And so while the staff report recommended not discussing this at the March MRC meeting, there may be room to talk about the process and give rein to that discussion, and we can cover that under the MRC topic. And the last thing I want to note is that there is such a volume of engagement in this topic, even before just for today. I think we had over 200 individuals that provided comments, that signed on, excuse me, to the 29 or so comments in the meeting materials, and another 90 or so represented in comments within your supplemental materials. So there is a lot of passion related to this. Some of those comments come from federal or state agencies, predominantly federal agencies, such as the National Marine Sanctuaries and the National Park Service related to Channel Islands. And we just want to note that consistent with the Marine Life Management Act, engagement with those, with any agencies where their jurisdiction overlaps or is adjacent to proposals would we anticipate and are committed to doing that before bringing any before the commission considers recommendations.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Susan. I think before we go to public comment, and Craig, I'm also curious if you would like to say something, but first, I'd like to invite the Deputy Secretary of Oceans back up to say something on behalf of the Ocean Protection Council. Welcome. Welcome back.
It's been so long. Thank you so much. Congratulations, Commissioner President Murray and Vice President Zavaleta. Again, welcome, Commissioner Anderson. Always nice to see you, Commissioner Scalar. I am really happy to be here, and before I dig into the MPA piece, I just want to extend my gratitude to the department's law enforcement division. We are so lucky to have you, and we're thankful for all the work that you do. So it's Valentine's Day. It is a perfect day for me to express my love for the MPA network. But in all seriousness, I want to thank this commission and the department for your ongoing leadership in managing our California MPA network, which we know from the Decadal Management Review is generating benefits for ocean health. This network should be a point of pride for all of us. It is a gold standard for ocean conservation, and it's serving as a global model for how to protect marine life and habitats using science and community input. Our MPAs are also a critical component to helping achieve the governor's priorities to conserve biodiversity and build climate resilience, including his initiative, his 30 by 30 initiative to protect 30% of California's lands and coastal waters by 2030. The MPA network, covering 16% of state waters, provides durable ecosystem level protection and gets us more than halfway to our 30 by 30 conservation goal. There is not a separate process to create 30 by 30 MPAs. However, science-based, community-driven changes implemented by this commission and the department through your adaptive management process are critically important to meeting the Newsom administration's conservation targets. That does not mean that MPAs are the only way we will achieve our 30 by 30 goal, but it does mean that our existing network and any future changes to strengthen protections made here are an essential piece of the puzzle. Our other three strategies to conserve 30% of coastal waters include supporting tribally led conservation through indigenous marine stewardship areas, enhancing conservation in national marine sanctuaries, and evaluating existing spatial management measures to determine the extent to which they're meeting the state's definition of a 30 by 30 conserved area. As we initiate these efforts to adaptively manage the network to better meet the goals of the Marine Life Protection Act, with a focus on improving benefits for ecosystems and communities, it is important to maintain existing protections, especially for our state marine reserves, which are the ecological backbone of our network. The Resources Agency and the OPC are deeply committed to the long-term success and the durability of this network, and we stand at the ready to collaborate with the Fish and Game Commission and the Department of Fish and Wildlife on next steps. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that, Jen. Commissioners, before we go to public comment, any thoughts or questions that you've got? Seeing none. Sherry, how many public speakers do we have?
We have 39 speakers.
39 speakers. Terrific. So we will give speakers 1 minute each. Just want to clarify that, this is noticed today as considering whether to grant, deny, or refer for additional review petitions for regulatory change, which include the MPA petitions that we've received, the many MPA petitions that we've received. The staff recommendation is to refer them all to the Department of Fish and Wildlife. And so I guess I just wanted to clarify that, that's why we're here today. I think it's unlikely that we're going to grant any petitions today, given that, we don't have Commissioner Hassler-Carmison here. We have a brand new commissioner here. And I think these petitions are so detailed. There is much to do in terms of reviewing and really acquainting ourselves with these. And of course, the department hasn't looked at them at all in theory because they haven't been referred to you yet. So I suspect we won't have a lot of feedback that we're getting from the department on what to do about these petitions because we have not yet handed them over for review. It looks like Director Bonham would like to add something as well.
Yeah, I look forward to the 39 comments and thank those that look like they're youth advocacy, ready to take the microphone. But today's a process decision in my mind. So no petition, it sounds like, is getting a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We need to take them to the process stage of analyzing and coming back for subsequent discussion at the commission.
Thanks for that, Director Bonham. So with that, let us begin. Sherry, take us through public comment, please.
President Murray, our first speaker was Keith Rootsart, who was previously approved for 3 minutes. Does
Indeed.
he still get the 3 minutes?
Evidently, yes. Yes, please. Hi, Keith.
I have a presentation. Well, my name is Keith Rootsart. I'm with the Giant Kelp Restoration Project again. So, I'm with the Giant Kelp Restoration. My name is Keith Rootsart. And go ahead and go to the next slide, please. We have a petition 2023-23. It's a great number. And where we got the idea is from the Marine Resource Committee meeting. Commissioner Sklar and Commissioner Murray, you were there. Go ahead and click on the video, please. There's audio with it. Can you play the audio portion too? Okay. I would say that AGP does great work, and this was a good example of how we were able to get information that they had taken and use it for future work here. So I
have to share with you, Keith, that actually is not the work of AGP. That is the work of this fine young man over here.
All right.
AGP does great work for our commission meetings, and our team of staff that supports our committee meetings, they have a separate set of equipment that we carry with us to all the committee meetings. And so they manage that. And then AGP, you'll notice our pictures aren't quite as crisp and clean and clear. They definitely do a better job.
Excellent. Excellent.
Doesn't version calling, couldn't it simply be a request to have an allowed use? I'm not into it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not into it. I'm just saying it's a pathway.
So from that idea, that was Greg's idea. We got the idea we could use allowable use of the marine protected areas to allow culling and other things in the marine protected areas. Next slide, please. So in South Monterey Bay, we used to have almost 500 acres of kelp, and you can see on the left side of the screen, and on the right screen side, you'll see we have 58.3 acres remaining in September of 2022, right? So some time ago. And down the bottom right corner is our Tankers Reef project, where there's 11 acres of kelp that the divers have saved in the project. Next slide, please. So our proposal is to allow these urchin barrens in the marine protected areas. The marine protected areas actually benefited the urchins by protecting them from us, and we're not allowed to go in there. So we're going to try to, our petition here is to allow more culling at Tankers Reef. I told you we're asking for it again. And Ed Ricketts, SMCA, the Pacific Grove Gardens Marine Conservation Area, SMCA, and the Carmel Bay SMCA. And in Point Lobos, which is actually a reserve in Whalers Cove, parks people are all about it. So, oh, the time. Next slide, please.
And Keith, with all due respect,
Yeah.
we do have a lot of speakers in the room who we never get to hear from. I
Okay.
would encourage you to wrap it up if you can.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will. So these are some of the things that we're requesting is culling urchins, baiting urchins, commercial restoration by harvesting urchins, managing acid weed, which is also another element of this, removing invasive species, planting and transplanting kelp, and kelp canopy management by pruning, which would not be allowed in reserves. So we have to figure that out, and prohibiting fishing in restoration areas. Next slide, please. We call them on the grid, and other things we're doing is SCP framework changes and public outreach, working with putting buoys on the sites and for artificial reefs in the marine protected areas. Next slide. And that's it. Please say yes to Greg's idea. Thanks.
Will Greg Helms, Carla Garibay Garcia, Kent Tan.
There was almost for sure going to be an identity issue already, and now here's this. Greg Helms. In this case, I'm speaking for the Santa Barbara Channel Collaborative MPA network, although I do normally address this commission in my work with Ocean Conservancy. In both those capacities, I want to join in welcoming the new commissioner and take opportunity to thank you all for serving. The collaborative network and their various groups have a distinctive role in MPA management in that we bring together cross-interest folks in the community at the ground level with enforcement folks and municipalities and so on. So we have highly refined refinements to recommend. I'll touch on a couple in my minute. As we move forward, we've identified a kind of an access issue and a level protection issue in one of the backbone state marine reserves up around the community of Lompoc, around Point Conception and Vandenberg. We have a proposed ribbon of a changed allowed use that we recommend, in which both the folks who have been complying and those who haven't would be subject to new refined regulations. We're also wanting to look at overlaying MPAs that have overlain pre-existing special closures and ask the department and other advisors to look at those if they're still needed and so on. There's access issues and level of protection. It's entirely consistent with petition 18, by the way, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Commissioners and staff, I'm Carla Garibay Garcia, and my comment is on behalf of the Natural Resources Defense Council. NRDC proposed to Chumash, California, co-manage SMCA. Currently, none of California's MPAs are co-managed with tribes, and so we encourage the Commission and partner agencies to prioritize efforts to establish co-management. We'd also like to echo Deputy Secretary for Ocean and Coastal Policy's comments. We believe the adaptive management process should be guided by the MLPA goals, master plan, but also Governor's 30x30 objectives. The petitions before the Commission don't seek to double the network. On the contrary, most offer modest modifications to strengthen the network. It's no coincidence that the master plan called for SMRs to be at the backbone of our network. They're some of the only places without extractive activities and allow for the recovery of fish age and size structure, a key objective of MPAs. Taking a few fish per person times millions of fishers can unfortunately have enormous impacts. And while take is prohibited within SMRs, the millions of Californians who interact with the ocean in non-consumptive ways are still able to recreate there. Thanks for your time.
Next speaker would be Kent Katikian, followed by Shreda Paul and Caitlin Perea. please approach the podium.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Katikian. I'm here speaking in support of the petition of EAC. It's item number 18. This pertains to Duxbury Reef. Who I am is described, my relevant background is described in attachment 9. I won't go through it. There are multiple reasons why this petition request should be granted, and they're very ably described in the petition. I'm going to just describe a subset of a subset, which is the public confusion when you don't have a completely protected area. That confusion can arise in two ways. One is people see a permitted taking occurring, and they think that other forms of taking are also permitted. Another form of confusion is that even if they don't see a permitted form taking, they go in these areas and they think that they can take because some taking is permitted. This weekend, on Sunday, there were 4 individuals on the reef filling a 10-gallon white bucket with tegula, with black turban snails. Very simple creature. So what? That creature, if it's not present in sufficient concentration, you won't have hermit crabs. If you don't have hermit crabs, there's a whole cascade of events that biological consequences that follow. You don't have certain large decapods. And if you don't have those large decapods, then you don't have the octopus that come to the reef because some of those decapods are their favorite food. If you don't,
thank you, Ken.
if you don't have the
to wrap up.
decapods, if you don't have the octopus, then the visitors that you have, the classes that you have, the primary school students, the secondary school students, the UC students who come there and see the octopus, what you don't get is the sense of wonder. You don't get them sucking in their breath. All they have left then, if they don't have that, is the virtual experience on a screen. That's what you lose. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, my name is Shreya Paul, and I'm an undergraduate student studying environmental science and political science at UC Davis. I'm also an elected board member of Kelp on my campus. I moved to the Bay Area when I was 6, so the Pacific is very special to me. I remember outdoor education trips and exploring tide pools and beaches within San Mateo's MPA network as a 5th grader. I returned back as a camp counselor in 11th grade because my passion for the planet started because of the very oceans I explored as a young girl. Ultimately, my connection to the ocean helped me choose my major. California's marine protected areas have provided enriching experiences for students of all ages. They provide a chance for young Californians to experience nature and discover their passion for the environment. MPAs are an essential sanctuary for marine life, and they can continue to inspire Californians and safeguard the state's ecological diversity. I have ambitious goals of fighting climate change, and MPAs provide a refuge for marine life and allow the ocean's ecosystem to heal, which is essential in fighting climate change. Widening MPA protections will protect humans, plants, and animals and strengthen our climate resilience. I urge the Fish and Game Commission to strengthen and expand the MPA network to ensure a prosperous coastline and provide opportunities for our future generations to experience the same love for the planet that my peers and I did because of the ocean. Thank you.
Will Sophia Massengill, Angela Georgians, and Tomas Valdez please line up behind the next speaker? Kate,
Hello, my name is Caitlin Perea. I'm a second-year environmental student at UC Davis. I am the vice chair of Kelp students at UC Davis, as well as the co-campaign coordinator for the Protect Our Oceans campaign. We are asking for Fish and Game Commission to prioritize strengthening the existing network of MPAs and to implement new highly or fully protected MPAs through the adaptive management process. I went to Catalina Island when I was in middle school, where I had the opportunity to swim with sharks. I got to snorkel in the clear ocean and watch all of the sea animals interact with each other. It was a surreal experience to see the marine animals enjoying their habitat. This could not have been possible without the marine protected areas. Science shows that marine protected areas are necessary for saving our marine life from overfishing, pollution, and oil drilling. In conclusion, I implore the Fish and Game Commission to not only safeguard, but also fortify and expand the MPA network. By doing so, we ensure that the beauty, biodiversity, and ecological richness of our coastline endure for generations to come. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sophie Massengill. I'm a second-year undergrad studying French and environmental policy at UC Davis. I'm also the co-campaign coordinator for the Oceans Campaign at CalPERG. We're asking for the Fish and Game Commission to prioritize strengthening the existing network of MPAs and to implement newly, highly, or fully protected MPAs through the adaptive management process. From talking to students on campus, it is clear that it's a very important issue to them, and students on my campus have shown overwhelming support for our petition to protect 30% of our land by 2030, and seas by 2030, sorry. Students are ready to fight for an increase in MPAs. And when I moved to California 2 years ago, one of the things that I admired most about this state was its reputation for protecting its land and seas. And I really hope to see this legacy continue. Research shows that highly and fully protected MPAs are the most effective way to conserve our vulnerable marine life, as they help provide an insurance policy against the threat of climate change and our increasingly industrialized ocean. In conclusion, I implore the Fish and Game Commission to not only safeguard, but to also fortify and expand the MPA network. By doing this, we preserve our beautiful and diverse coastline for years to come. Thank you. Hello, my name is Angela Georgians, and I'm an undergraduate student at UC Davis, as well as an intern with Environment California. As someone born and raised in the coastal city of Cardiff, California, I have fond memories of hiking with my parents at San Elijo Lagoon and taking field trips to the tide pools to see creatures like sea cucumbers and anemones up close. These experiences would not have been possible without California's network of marine protected areas. In our increasingly industrialized and warming ocean, MPAs serve as crucial places of refuge for marine life. As someone who has grown up enjoying the ecological richness that MPAs sustain, I believe that further widening the MPA network to encompass more of our state's coastal waters will benefit humans and animals alike. I implore the Fish and Game Commission to not only safeguard, but also strengthen and expand the MPA network to ensure that the beauty of our coastline endures for generations to come. Thank you.
Will Robert Vergara and Rachel Lucine please line up behind Thomas Valdez at the podium?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Tomás Valadez. With Azul, we have submitted 2 petitions alongside Environment California to strengthen and expand California's MPA network. We also strongly support the other petitions that strengthen and expand the MPA network. We believe action is needed to strengthen our MPA network to ensure it's working to address threats along our coastline. Now is the time to make significant improvements to the existing MPA network via an adaptive management process to better protect our ocean and coastal resources in the future. Please consider these petitions quickly and with a transparent process to fulfill the goals of the MLPA. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners and staff. Rob Vergara with NRDC. I'm also here on behalf of over 2,500 NRDC Action Alert signers, whose comments I will deliver shortly to staff. I want to commend the Commission and the Department on their continued efforts to adaptively manage our state MPA network. Your work is vital to conserving the natural beauty of California, which is one of 36 biodiversity hotspots on our planet. There are ongoing climate and biodiversity crises unfolding in our oceans as we speak. In the past 77 years, 90% of historic eelgrass beds have disappeared, 90% of our coastal wetlands have also been lost, and our kelp forests are also severely declining. In light of these trends, we submitted our petitions with the hope to strengthen our network and also to provide respite for marine populations and bolster it for the future. And I just want to go off script for a second, take these last 20 seconds. I'm not speaking to you as an NRDC representative. I'm speaking to you as a concerned citizen. I grew up in a low-income Filipino immigrant household whose love for family, nature, and oceans runs deep. I'm deeply concerned that my children won't be able to enjoy the same coastline that I did growing up here. You as decision makers are at the forefront of the fight to keep oceans healthy and accessible for all, not just the ones who are here who have the resources and the time and the privilege and the socioeconomic status to speak to y'all and be heard. So please keep that in mind as you make these decisions. Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners and staff. I'm Rachel Lucine, Ocean Conservation Associate with Environment California. We submitted 2 petitions with Azul for a stronger MPA network to strengthen enforcement where it isn't working and expand the network to include the beautiful kelp forests that are home to sea otters and other threatened wildlife. In addition to the more than 10,000 comments in support from December, our support has continued to grow with endorsements from more than 30 state and local environmental organizations, 20 local elected officials, including mayors of Half Moon Bay and Santa Monica, council members along coastal cities from Seaside to Encinitas that would see the direct benefits of these protections, local surf and scuba diving recreation businesses from Reading to San Diego, letters from California State Coastal Assembly members Dawn Addis and Al Muratsuchi, letters from California State Senators Scott Wiener and John Laird. This growing support reflects the public enthusiasm for a strong marine protected area network and meaningful adaptation management to keep it that way. Urgent action is required to strengthen our marine protected area network to ensure it's working to address threats along our coastline, from ocean warming and underwater habitat loss to the growing list of threatened and endangered species. Please consider these petitions quickly and with a clear and transparent democratic process to fulfill the goals of the Marine Life Protection Act. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker will be Ethan McKinley on Zoom, followed by Sean Hastings and Karen Reyna. Ethan McKinley, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ethan McKinley. I'm the superintendent of Channel Islands National Park. I'm speaking with you today to follow up on our written comments and our concerns with several of the petitions that have been submitted and offer our partnership and services. Given that these are going to go on for further review, which we endorse and not be granted or denied today, I won't go into detail except to say that we do partner with the state on law enforcement to enforce protections in these marine protected areas. Kelp forest monitoring that's produced one of the highest quality and oldest oceanographic databases in the world. And education, piping out live streaming from scuba divers and rangers underwater to classrooms around the world to educate on the value of these places. It's extremely important to us that protections remain in place to ensure that the growth and success that we've seen so far stay in place. Thank you.
Sean Hastings, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, commissioners, department staff, members of the public. My name is Sean Hastings. I'm with NOAA's Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. And to keep it brief for you today, we support the staff recommendation to forward the petitions on to the department for further review. I want to acknowledge the commission staff and department staff that have been working with us through this process and advising our own advisory council. We built this network together, as many of you know, with the state. We co-manage it together, as the park superintendent just emphasized, and we look forward to reviewing it together. So in the spirit of Valentine's Day, we are expressing our fidelity to you all in this process. Thank you.
Karen Reyna, go ahead, please.
Karen Reyna. I'm with the Greater Fairlawns National Marine Sanctuary, and I want to thank the commissioners for their time on this important matter. I'll keep this brief. We submitted a letter, but just want to express our support for moving this process along to the next phase. And the details of our letter and our interest specifically at Duxbury Reef are available to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Our next speaker will be Mike Beenan, followed by Jamie Dimon and Nancy Caruso. Mike Beenan, go ahead, please.
Yes, good afternoon. Mike Beenan with the Laguna Bluebelt Coalition. I want to thank you for reviewing our MPA 24 petition for citywide no-take protection of Laguna Beach's MPAs with a boundary revision. City annexation of South Laguna Beaches last March sets the stage for consistent enforcement to protect sea life. The Science Advisory Team determined Laguna Beach as essential for genetic dispersal to promote the success of California's network of MPAs between Palos Verdes and La Jolla. Please consider the dedication of Laguna Beach as expressed in a dozen letters in support from prominent NGOs and individuals. Also, please take note of a letter from Three Arch Bay, with the southern part of town witnessing the loss of sea life over the last 10 years. The Laguna Ocean Foundation letter also highlights the critical habitat in our area. Laguna has trained all lifeguards as marine protection officers to facilitate consistent enforcement. On this Valentine's Day, let's remember we protect what we love.
Jamie Dimon, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon. I ask that you please outright deny petition 29 for a new SMCA in Carpinteria. With the majority of tribal communities not recognized by the government, they wouldn't have access, along with all the residents and visitors, to the town of Carpinteria, to which this completely encompasses our beaches and coastline, beyond city limits even. We would have nowhere to recreate. We have strong shore fishing, free diving, scuba diving for lobster, spearfishing, clamming, and many of the people in our town rely on that, not just for a food source, but also recreation. Carpinteria is separated from Santa Barbara and Ventura by quite a ways, and this would be disastrous from an economic standpoint on our town as well. I'd like to point out there is no risk to juvenile white sharks in the area, and we do have the Anacapa and Scorpions SMRs within 20 nautical miles of Carpinteria and within 30 nautical miles of other MPAs. Santa Barbara County is the most affected and the most infringed upon by the MPA network, and to add anything further would be absolutely devastating to us. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Nancy Caruso, followed by Emily Parker and Cara Sangera. Nancy Caruso, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Nancy Caruso. I'm the director of Get Inspired in Orange County. We're speaking in support of Amendment 2023-22 MPA to add scientific research, monitoring, restoration, and education to the wording for Orange County's MPAs. It's been widely recognized in our MPA collaborative meetings, as well as the decadal review, that is extremely difficult to obtain scientific permits for research and restoration work in our MPAs. The difficulty in acquiring scientific permitting has significantly hindered my work and that of several other scientists in my community who want to study and restore our coastline. Without experimentation with calculated trial and error, we stand no chance of witnessing, monitoring, and trying to abate the ecological changes fueled by our climate crisis. So thank you for your consideration.
Emily Parker, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, President Murray and Commissioners. My name is Emily Parker, and I'm the Coastal and Marine Scientist with Heal the Bay. I'm also speaking on behalf of the California Marine Sanctuary Foundation and the Surfrider Foundation today. I'd like to thank the Commission for their commitment to adaptive management of the MPA network. This next step in the petition process should be an opportunity for us to improve the already successful and globally recognized network. As the petitions move along in the review process today, we urge you to only consider actions that enhance and fortify the network's protections and to reject any proposals that seek to weaken them. While no action will be taken today and CDFW must take the time to carefully review every petition, the importance of not reducing network protections truly cannot be understated. We therefore would also like to request a specially designated MRC meeting dedicated only to petition discussion so that we can thoughtfully review these petitions as a community. We agree with comments from OPC staff today to maintain the strength of our MPAs and would like to thank the OPC as well for their commitment to the MPA network. The full benefits of our MPAs will require more time to manifest, and we urge you to uphold the integrity of the MPA network. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Cara Sangera, followed by Devin O.D., Ashley Eagle-Gibbs, and Donna Calez. Cara Sangera, go ahead, please.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Kara, and I want to express my support for initiatives to strengthen the California MPA network. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I have been a beneficiary of all of the physical, mental, and commercial benefits that our oceans give us. And I feel that it is our duty to ensure that we steward them in a way that promotes their health so we can continue to see these benefits for generations to come. All of the benefits that we get from ocean ecosystems, including commercial benefits derived outside of these NPAs, relies on our knowledge of ecology and adaptive management to preserve marine habitat to keep them stable. So I want to stress how important it is to maintain and expand marine protected areas to get closer to our 30 by 30 goals. Thank you so much.
Devin O.D., go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Devin O.D. on behalf of backcountry hunters and anglers. I just want to point commissioners to the letter that we submitted and signed by a number of organizations along with other individuals that signed on to our counter petition. I won't rehash the whole letter, but I do want to mention that shore fishing, diving, spearfishing, kayak boat fishing, and coastal gathering, these are low impact activities that do reflect the broad spectrum of California's diverse community, and they do constitute a valuable resource for individuals across the economic divide to access nature and provide food for their families. We encourage you to, look at these considerations, and we feel that they're in line with the California Natural Resources Agency's Outdoors for All initiative and its commitment in the Pathways to 30 by 30 document to implement projects that do no further harm or pose unintended consequences to historically marginalized communities. Thank you for taking a look at that letter and for getting input from the department on these issues.
Ashley Eagle-Gibbs, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ashley Eagle Gibbs with the EAC of West Marin. First, congratulations to President Murray, Vice President Zavaleta, and Commissioner Anderson. We are supportive of keeping our MPA network strong and effective, and we value the adaptive management. We submitted 2 petitions and supplemental materials requesting changes to Drake Cestero, that's number 31, and Duxbury Reef, number 32. We support the staff recommendation for the Commission to refer the petitions to the Department for review and recommendation, and I do want to make a few suggestions related to process. It is important that there is a dedicated Marine Resources Committee meeting allowing for a robust discussion of each petition. Perhaps that could be broken up by region, and it would also be helpful to have advance notice of that meeting scheduling. Regarding the evaluation criteria, it would be helpful to have the ability to respond to any new criteria that are presented, and we very much look forward to the next steps. Please contact us with any questions. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Donna Calez, followed by Asia EDC and Aubrey Fowler. Donna Calez, go ahead, please.
Thank you, President Murray and Commissioners. My name is Donna Calez. I'm the owner, along with my family, of Dana Wharf Sport Fishing and Whale Watching in Dana Point, California. We have been operating fishing and whale watching trips from our location for 53 years. I am speaking today on petition 24. This proposed expansion of the Laguna Beach SMCA south to the Dana Point border. We urge you to reject this petition. I do have a written letter that I already submitted, but if this petition was to pass, it would financially hurt us and further restrict fishing access to a huge customer base. And also, it will hurt our long-standing fishing trips we provide to the special needs children community, trips like Fish for Life, and our fishing trips for the less fortunate, like those from the Rollo Kids at Sea program. This is just to name a few. Instead, I support the status quo that has been submitted by OC Impact, the Orange County Marine Protected Areas Committee. In closing, I urge you to reject petition 24.
Asia, go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Asia Hudson, a marine conservation analyst with the Environmental Defense Center. The MPA network now reflects the work that occurred in just under a decade, showcasing extensive political compromise and a comprehensive design that allows for a wide range of consumptive and non-consumptive use. As the state considers adaptive management of the MPA network, it is important to make decisions that support corresponding MLPA goals. Allowing SMRs to be downgraded to SMCAs to allow commercial and/or recreational take will create complexity for enforcement officers who must ensure individual compliance with regulations. Petition requests to allow take of certain species like highly migratory species or those with weak site fidelity does not allow for ease of enforcement. Those species that are largely migratory will not stay in any one MPA long-term. Therefore, allowing any take of these species in highly protected MPAs does not support scientifically sound adaptive management and will establish a precedent for weakening MPA protections. Prohibiting these fishing pressures will support enhanced enforcement and align with recently available scientific findings. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Aubrey Fowler, followed by Raymond Heimstra and Mark Fina. Aubrey Fowler, go ahead, please.
Hello, I'm Aubrey Fowler, South Coast Specialist at the MPA or Marine Protected Area Collaborative Network. First, a warm welcome to Commissioner Anderson. Let us know if you're interested in a call to familiarize yourself with the MPA Collaborative Network. The Collaborative Network supports the work of 14 diverse cross-sector county-based collaboratives who help steward our MPAs. We have an MOU with the state that officially recognizes the integral role that the local stakeholders, partners, and tribal members play in MPA management. In 2023, we hosted MPA regulatory recommendation discussions for each of the 14 collaboratives to talk about potential changes to the California's MPA network. The summary of those discussions and where there were consensus is listed by MPA and is in the MPA Collaborative vetted regulation recommendations sheet included in your binders. Thank you.
Ray Heimstra, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Ray Heimstra, and I'm the Associate Director at Orange County Coastkeeper. I just want to add a couple clarifications regarding petition 22, which is item 8 on your agenda. First, while this petition comes from Orange County Coastkeeper, the items in the petition are from the requests generated by the Orange County Marine Protected Area Council. So this is a collaborative effort. Secondly, each of the 4 items on this petition are severable standalone requests. We'll be talking more about this in the future. So that's all I have for now, and thanks for your service.
Our next speaker will be Mark Fina, followed by Bella and Art Seavey. Mark Fina, go ahead, please. You need to unmute. While
Yes.
Mark figures, oh, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Mark Fina. I represent the California Wet Fish Producers Association. Our members fish squid, which is often the largest fishery in the state of California in volume value. We fully endorse the idea of sending this off for review, these proposals off for review by the department, and I guess we have a few requests in terms of issues to look at in that review. One, some of the areas being proposed for MPAs, particularly in petitions 33 and 4, are very important to our fleet, and the economic impacts will be considerable if you advance those actions as written. Secondly, we ask that you consider that our fishery needs to fish on sandy substrate. We can't fish on the hard substrates that are the target of most of the actions that you've proposed. And then lastly, we'd ask that the state consider that the current closures strike a reasonable balance between our fisheries and the conservation interests, and we ask that the review done by the department try to maintain that balance. Thank you for your time.
Bella, go ahead, please. Bella, you need to unmute.
Yes, thank you. Hello, commissioners and staff. My name is Bella, and I want to express my support for the initiatives. As someone passionate about public health, having natural resources, such as the tidal pools and beaches, truly improve people's mental health and gives them a space to exercise, such as biking along the beach. Immersing oneself in nature is so therapeutic. In our chaotic world, it is important to protect our seascapes and waterways so people can de-stress. Joy should be accessible. Thank you.
Art Seavey, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Art Seavey. Thank you very much for hearing my quick comments. I'm with Monterey Abalone Company. We're an abalone farm located on the commercial wharf in Monterey. And we've been there since 1990. And we harvest kelp to feed our abalone. It's been our business model for over 30 years. We need the kelp. It's a natural, sustainable feed, and it produces a natural product. We won't be able to survive if all of the marine protected areas around Monterey Peninsula are turned into state marine reserves, which is the proposal of Keith Rootsart's group. And we support kelp restoration. We've supported Keith's group in the past, and we'd like to support them in the future. But how can we if our business has to fold because we don't have kelp? So urchins don't care if an area is a state marine reserve. They will cross into it and eat all the kelp. Also, as Keith Rootsart said, we aren't going anywhere either. And it would be helpful to have an understanding of the process. And also, I was a stakeholder in the MLPA, and I know that these marine protected areas around the Monterey Peninsula were considered with many groups, and many, they called them users,
Thank you, Art. We do need to ask you to wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. So I don't see how this can all be changed without a process like the MLPA, where every user group is taken into consideration and heard. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Neil Desai, followed by Joseph Huddle and Grant Downey. Neil Desai, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, commissioners, commission and department staff. My name is Neil Desai, Senior Director with the National Parks Conservation Association. I hope you all are doing well. Our view aligns with the comments made by the National Park Service, and we appreciate the commission staff to continue coordinating with them And we support the petitions before you to strengthen and expand the MPAs, including at the Channel Islands National Park and Point Reyes National Seashore. Thank you for your efforts.
Joseph Hudel, go ahead, please.
Thank you, members of the commission. My name is Joseph Huddle. I'm a lifetime member of the Sierra Club and long-term NRDC supporter. I'm also a kayak fisherman and I've been a shore fisherman for over 40 years. I supported the existing MPA network at personal cost to coastal access of some of the fishing grounds I grew up with. And I do not support the majority of the proposed petitions to expand the MPA network, particularly the expansion and reclassification of SMRs and SMCAs in Monterey and Santa Cruz areas, particularly petitions 2023-23 and 2023-33. The loss of access to fishing opportunities is harmful to the emotional and economic well-being to an important user group. Placing nature under glass is not the sole solution to conservation goals. Some would say that if you are not participating in the food chain and ecosystem, you're just a tourist. Please consider denying the majority of these proposed expansions. Adding to a good thing does not necessarily make it better. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Grant Downey, followed by Santaya Steinruck and Nicholas Martinez. Grant Downey, go ahead, please.
Thank you, commissioners, for hearing from me again. This is Grant Downey. I am the North Coast Port Representative for the California Sea Urchin Commission. I am here as a representative on behalf of the California Sea Urchin Commission in support of review and approval of our petition 2023-14, allowable access for commercial urchin harvest in the SMCAs. A big issue with the MPAs is they create protection and sanctuary for urchin barrens to grow and remain untouched. This action was also supported by the Mendocino MPA Collaborative and is in the regulatory recommendations that you have in front of you. Thank you.
Santaya, go ahead, please. Santaya Steinruck, go ahead, please. Okay, I'm going to move on to Nicholas Martinez. We'll come back. Nicholas Martinez, go ahead, please.
Hi, yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hi, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Nicholas Martinez, and I'm a graduate student at UC Irvine studying conservation and restoration sciences. I'm here to support petition 22, item 8, to add, quote, scientific research, monitoring, restoration, and education, end quote, to Orange County's MPA policies. Over the past 6 years, I've dedicated my studies to understanding the intersection of environmental science and policy. Regarding the amendment, I am growing concerned over the lack of collaboration between Orange County's passionate citizen scientists and the regulatory framework of its MPAs. When I learned that scientific permitting within our MPAs was extremely difficult to attain, I was shocked. I understand the need for cautionary approaches, but we are simply running out of time. I know I speak on behalf of the many young adults entering the field of environmental policy when I say that we are working double time to not only catch up to California's contemporary issues, but to also share the burden of improving upon the system that was handed to us. I'd like to ask you that you allow the citizens of Orange County to champion the success story of their own home by putting the power back into the citizens' hands. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Mary. Go ahead, please, Mary.
Hello, my name is Mary Hooley. I'm an avid scuba diver and a volunteer for a number of organizations, the Monterey National Marine Sanctuary, Giant Kelp Restoration, Reef Check, the Aquarium. I wanted to speak out in favor of petition number 23, particularly those aspects relating to continuing and expanding the ability for divers to help with kelp restoration activity across our MPAs. It's really hard for me to join these meetings in the middle of a Wednesday, but I spend my weekends underwater, and these areas, particularly those in Pacific Grove and in Whalers Cove and Point Lobos, really desperately need our help. Our kelp forests are dying and they're turning into urchin barrens. There is some hope. Divers at Tankers Reef have proven we can make a difference. We have an established program for a kelp restoration certification with a method to teach urchin culling techniques, minimizing harm to other organisms and substrate. We've built the tools, we've built the community. Please let us continue.
Our next speaker is Lisa Gafilian, followed by Casper Kazazian and Rosa Lauchi. Sorry. Lisa, go ahead, please.
You did a great job with pronunciation of my name, so thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners and everyone else tuning in. My name is Lisa Gilfillan, and I work and reside on Kumeyaay land in San Diego County. I work for the binational nonprofit known as Wild Coast, and much of my individual and collaborative work involves trying to understand how people are using our coasts and oceans. Many of the people you've heard from today, I work in collaboration with. We submitted petition number 26 that will have minor impacts in terms of regulatory changes, but will have major impacts in how our areas are enforced and how we communicate with and provide public outreach. As a co-chair of the San Diego-based MPA collaborative, I can assure you that our requests have complete buy-in from our local collaborative. They reflect the conversations and compromises reached with local anglers, LED officers, and MPA managers. And ultimately, our petition doesn't increase any sizes of our MPAs, but instead it aims to address compliance concerns, facilitates effective enforcement, and simplifies regulations to improve public understanding and compliance. It's a real win-win all around. We echo many of our partners today in stressing the importance of maintaining and strengthening protections within California's MPA network. And again, thank you for your time and all the work you do.
It looks like maybe Santeya has figured out the technical issues. Go ahead, please. We're still not hearing you. Casper Kazazian, go ahead, please.
Hey, this is Casper Kazazian from www.californiasurffishing.net, also co-writer of California's Fishing, The Hunt for Big Fish. My brother and I have spent thousands of hours the past few years fishing up and down our coast. We are very of the marine protected areas. We have noticed an uptick in large fish near the boundaries of the marine protected areas. However, we noticed in proposals a proposed expansion in the Laguna Beach marine protected area, as well as some changes in the Santa Barbara Channel. What we would say as surf fishermen is, surf fishermen, for the most part, 95% of them are catch and release guys. They're there to immerse with the environment. They're there for recreation. They're there. I've seen lives change. I've seen mental health restored through surf fishing. So please do not expand the MPAs in the surf fishing domain. And if you're going to, please make them catch and release, because it's all about recreation for surf fishing. It changes lives. Please make them catch and release.
Rosa Lauchi, go ahead, please.
Dolaha Shahushi Rosa Lauchi. I'm the Marine Division Manager and Marine Biologist for Tolowa Dani Nation in Smith River, California. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to speak today. The Tolowa Dani Nation submitted petition 2023-21 to remove smelt or shumsh as allowable take within Truluquat or Pyramid Point MPA. This is a cultural keystone species for the tribe. I've been studying its decline for the past 10 years, and removing allowable take of shumsh from the regs will further protect the species and our traditional way of life. I will also say that this lies within the recently designated Indigenous Marine Stewardship Area. And I implore you to consider this petition as it's moved along in the review process. Shushanila, thank you for allowing me to talk.
Brian Taniguchi, please go ahead.
Hello, this is Brian Taniguchi. Good afternoon, commissioners and the department. I'm speaking in support of petition 2023-23, and I wholly support the comments made by Murray Hooley earlier. I think we need to do whatever actions are needed to help restore and maintain the kelp forest ecosystems that are in distress. In his reply to Keith Rootsart, our comments he made to Keith Rootsart's letter, Commissioner Sklar said, the scale of the problem is too large to make a difference. The California coastline is 1,100 miles, and it's overwhelming to think of culling urchins over the entire length of the coast. Well, I agree with that comment, part of that comment. I do think that we can make a difference. And I think if we can help and create oases of kelp forest ecosystems until better methods can be developed or until nature can reestablish or adapt to the changing environment, we should do so, and we should do so urgently. Thank you.
Santaya, can you,
Are you able to hear me now?
yes, go ahead, please.
Oh, awesome. Dillahunt Commission. My name is Santaya Steinrich. I'm a tribal citizen of the Tallawahdeeni Nation, and I'm speaking to the item 10-7. I'm a traditional harvester and subsistence consumer of surf, smelt, or slumpsh in our language. We use traditional methods and techniques to catch our important fish and teach traditional life ways. This continued cultural practice is essential to our people and must be continued for future generations. I support to remove recreational take of surf smelt slumpsh with the exception of Tallawahdeeni Nation in petition 2023-21 MPA. Thank you. Shanima.
That concludes our public speakers on this item.
Thanks, Sherry. And thanks to all of you, both virtually and in the room, for being here and for speaking. You know, 40 speakers can seem overwhelming when we hear that that's the number, but actually it was really lovely to hear all the different perspectives and experiences that you all have had in the ocean and why these protections matter to you. So thanks for being here. You all did a great job for any of you for whom it was your first time. Really appreciate having you here. And this is just like a tiniest tip of the iceberg of what's to come. I heard requests for a dedicated MRC meeting to talk about MPA petitions. You know, we can talk about that later, maybe when we talk about the MRC as well in a separate agenda item. But before we do anything else, I just want to open it up to my fellow commissioners and hear their thoughts and feedback first.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Commissioner Sklar.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I'd like to see us give, you know, some direction to the department. I think they're looking for that. Incorporating how we're going to use the MRC as part of the process. A few just top line points so that, you know, the department hears what I'm thinking, and I think, you know, my fellow commissioners as well, that, you know, one goal is to no way weaken the network. I mean, that's critical, including specific MPAs, and that we can enhance where there are limitations on existing areas, but it really critical to incorporate additional tribal input that maybe wasn't there when the network was created and that we've heard from since, and that we not expand for the sake of expansion, but expand where we see there's weaknesses in the network. You know, neither should we reduce nor expand just because of some philosophical idea that either MPAs are good or bad. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to look at, we got a great report and it's working really well, but there are, you know, areas we can fix, but I'm about tinkering with it rather than a wholesale either direction. In terms of process, I'd love to see the department come back with further refinement of the groupings into you know, the requests that are similar, because I think that again continues to make our process, you know, more functional and easy. And then come back with an approach to each of those groupings of you know, kind of broadly sooner than later. I would think maybe at our March MRC we could get that initial thought on each of the groupings of how you're approaching it and looking at it and what you want to look into further, kind of questions you're asking internally, and the things you're going to dive into to try to figure the answers to any questions you may have about those groupings. With it coming back in July MRC to with some of those thoughts and to the extent that you can, specific recommendations on specific petitions if you're able to by then. I skipped over one thing, which is I think one thing that's really important, we heard it a lot today, is about both enforcement and public outreach. I think both of those are critical, and seeing what the department is thinking about both of those is critical. And I think technology is obviously something that we need to invest in to help with the enforcement of the MPAs.
Great, thanks, Commissioner Sklar. Vice President Zavaleta.
Yeah, thanks. So I couldn't agree more that I think we need to work at the margins and not do sort of philosophically based actions that have big impacts on people or on biodiversity. So I think in light of that, I just want to step back for a minute and say, partly because I can't be at MRC, right? I'm not allowed to be a third person there. That, you know, the context for all of the comments you've heard today, basically many of them is that climate change and biodiversity loss are decimating our coastal oceans. Yes. Do we need to protect them? Absolutely. What from, I think, is the question that I'm trying to ask. I stayed up really late last night reading all the petitions and then reading some of the papers they cited, because I don't think these are decisions we should be making on sort of like broad, sweep, blunt instrument kind of basis. I really want to support ocean protection that works. And I think what I want to be careful of is us using the blunt instrument of state marine reserves when a goal might be better served by a large body of existing fishery regulations. I would point everyone again to a couple of the letters and sort of lists of signatures that are in the supplemental meeting materials from the fishing communities who would be affected by further closures. And I don't think that that's just, I think that's just the tip of the iceberg there, right? I think, you know, when we ask, like, do we need to protect our oceans? Yes, we also need to ask what from. And the danger is in going to this idea that it's from people. I've said this before, so I'll try to be brief here, but like, you know, it's particular industrial and economic and social arrangements that threaten the oceans. It's not people. And to me, it's the ultimate erasure. It's the ultimate sort of Jedi problem that we face, that we make that mistake of equating this particular set of things that like not all cultures do and not all people do with being human. People are actually fine for the ocean, most places in the world, most of human history. So let's not make that mistake. Let's not elide those things. And with respect to 30 by 30, I want to make sure that we understand like what counts and what doesn't, because you know, I'm looking at you, Jen. You know, I want to support the governor's goals on this. I mean, this is really important that we get there, but like what constitutes protection should not be all or nothing. So, you know, a couple of specific things. I want to be especially thoughtful about removing or adding areas to the system and about redesignations. I wanted to see specific rationale, dots connected from MPA creation or conversion from SMCA to SMR to desired outcomes. For me, it is not enough for us to say, which I think we can all agree, that kelp forest decline is a problem. It is totally a problem. We have to be asking, what does the scientific evidence say in this particular part of California? The MPAs would contribute to the solution. And I'm going to go ahead and single out, I think parts of petition 33, 33, parts 6 and 7, this is the Central Coast, are looking at the kelp forest technical report. And I'm not seeing in that report the claims that are sort of being used to back the ideas that these marine protected areas wholesale are going to help the kelp forest recovery that we're after. So we all agree that's the goal, but I'm not sure that curtailing fishing opportunity where evidence doesn't support it or even refutes the idea that that would enhance the conservation goal is in line with our mission as the Fish and Game Commission. People being connected to the ocean, being able to fish and feed their families. This includes all unrecognized tribes. If you're not federally recognized, you don't have a pathway to access your ancestral fishing areas. If we designate new marine protected areas, you know, that is a threat to conservation too, severing those connections to the ocean. So, I'm willing to support just referring all of these to the department so that there's an opportunity for them to reviewed and to have this conversation pick back up. It's also more opportunity for public input. But I do feel like I'm going to be, you know, interested in hearing that rationale explicitly within the parts of California that we're talking about for why a change in the management or a designation of new area is going to achieve the goal that's identified. Couple of other quick things I want to make sure are on the table. We do need to correct the lack of opportunity for tribal participation in the original process. And in doing that, again, we have to consider how creating new restrictions would exclude federally unrecognized tribal members from use. I think the issue that was raised about scientific collecting permits is really important. Again, some of the areas that we are talking about in these petitions are areas where there is a lot of ongoing long-term scientific monitoring and research, and we need more of that, if anything, not less. So that's a priority too. Let's see, I've already talked about fishing. You know, I think there are a couple of questions I want to make sure get addressed about specific petitions. So I'm just going to take a minute to say petition 27, Anacapa, SMCA to SMR. I want to ask the department in particular about the scale and degree of lasting impact on eelgrass habitat that the fishing boats, anchors, traps pose, because I didn't see evidence presented that recovery from damage of that smaller scale is a problem. So I just want to make sure we're looking at that. Petition 28. I don't quite understand from the petition how creating a state marine, a reserve would create fishing opportunities rather than remove them for the marginalized and disadvantaged communities out there at Point Sal. So I'd like to make sure we're asking that question. 31, there's a question, this is the Drake Sestero. Federal wilderness designations are raised. I think we need to be working with the park on that, but I would just point out that on land, hunting and fishing take place a lot in wilderness areas. Those are not considered incompatible uses with protection. And so let's remember that when we're talking about excluding clamming. And yeah, I was inclined to recommend some actions, but and I will do that if people are open to that. I agree, we shouldn't grant anything today. There needs to be more conversation. I do feel like there's some things that we can deny, but I'll only go there if my fellow commissioners indicate they're open to that.
Thank you so much for that, Vice President Zavaleta. Commissioner Anderson.
Yes. Wow, overwhelming. I stepped here, and I have a little background in the subject matter. I did work in this area in my day job. But I really believe to get up to speed, I've got to spend a lot more time talking to people in these areas that are impacted and make sure that I talk to all the NGOs. And so I'm in favor of putting it over and having the department go ahead and look at it. I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done. I want to make sure that I understand what Governor Newsom's priorities are and where he, if the administration has opinions, what they are as one of his newest appointments. But I just want to say thank you for all of you that came out. As I think the one or the second oldest on the commission. I've been around a long time, and I want to encourage everybody to be an activist. That's how I got started in so many different areas. And, for me, somebody that loves being on the water, somebody that loves being on a stream, and somebody that loves being on a field, it's a true honor to be on this commission. And I'm really excited to be here. I hope that I can be a voice for a lot of people out there. And I'm going to be very open and encourage access. I want to meet with you. I want to talk to you. And especially on the tribal side, I come from Sonoma and I know my coast very well. And I do believe understanding that the tribes were not as involved as they should have been. I want to make sure we, in looking at all these issues, that we include the tribes. So thank you. And thank you for being patient.
President.
Thanks for that, Commissioner Anderson. Yes, Director Bonham.
So I am hopeful the commission only does process today. And my feedback on process is to accept being a realist, which means you kind of deal with the situation and you are responding with the situation at hand. I'm not indicating this need to take as long, but by way of reference, from beginning to commission end, the first go around took 7 years and almost $40 million. So commission and commissioners, I hope we calibrate our expectation and we take a moment and reflect on pace to proceed through this conversation in a way that is transparent, is evidence-based, utilizes the Marine Resources Subcommittee as an appropriate discussion forum, doesn't repeat the mistake I'm not willing to embrace again, which is missing tribal engagement. We're not going to do that again. So that, I think that means this won't be overnight, but has to be deliberate, and we have to help people understand how we're going to work through this if we expect to get to an outcome that has, a majority vote here at the commission. So process I look forward to, but I don't think it'll be overnight. It's not going to be years. We understand the urgency. But let's set expectations and be realistic, because a lot of people care about these questions often for different reasons, and we're gonna have to work through it.
Yeah, thanks for that, Director Bonham. Yeah, I mean, when I listen to the folks in the room and the folks here up at the dais, I hear a lot of agreement, actually. I hear, we're not talking about MLPA 2.0. We don't have $40 million in 8 years to spend again. We do want to respect the work and that process that was hundreds of meetings, thousands of people, and 8 years of people's lives plus. We also don't want to repeat the mistakes that were made there. There are some things that were done really well. And as we've talked about quite a few times, there were some very serious social justice oversights as related to tribes. And, federally recognized tribes as sovereign nations always have the opportunity to submit a petition and come to us and talk about tribal take in MPAs and secure outcomes related to tribal take in MPAs. But that's not true for those tribes that are not federally recognized. And, some of that gets into how we define things like subsistence in California. And right now, we don't have a definition for that, right? That's something that the tribal committee is taking up. There's a work plan to take that on. And I think we certainly owe, that committee and the importance of that issue, we owe the time to spend on that issue and for tribes to be appropriately involved in sussing that out and coming up with what subsistence means in California. And we wouldn't want to shoehorn that into our process here. I also hear us agreeing that, the goals are important, right? For every MPA. And I think that's something we did know the first time. Our MPAs each have specific goals and objectives. And if we're going to create an MPA, I say this to my students all the time, like, you better know what it's for, or you won't know, if you've succeeded in achieving your goals. If we don't know why we created it in the first place, and we don't gear monitoring, design monitoring aimed at answering research questions and having metrics of success. So the goals specific to any MPA are going to be really important. I think we all probably agree on that too, from what I've heard. And then the other thing that I heard is that access is really important. And I think that's true for all of us. And I think what we heard today too is that access is fishing. It's also not just fishing, right? Access by historically marginalized communities and all communities, it can look different depending on who the individual is. And sometimes that's about access to fishing, and sometimes that's about access to the coast to just enjoy the coast for what it is. So I think we have a lot in the middle of our Venn diagram in this room, and I'm really grateful for that. What I also know is that everybody up on this dais, and I think in this room, is thoughtful and deliberate. And I heard folks saying, a few folks said, we want this process to be fast and transparent. That part of the Venn diagram is a little bit more tricky, I think, because it is not always easy to be fast and transparent. So I really appreciate Director Bonham's expectation setting about process, because I think we're going to need that, right? We're going to need a little bit of patience. We have a motion that we can make to refer all of the petitions to the department today. I'm not sure. I would look to you, Susan and Melissa, and maybe Craig, my co-chair on the MRC, about expectation setting for the March MRC. Do we want to talk about that now, or do we want to talk about that under the MRC agenda item?
I would certainly recommend under MRC. Because you want to make that decision in the context of the rest of the agenda.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Okay, so given that, if anyone would like to make a motion.
Yeah, I think given that we're going to talk about the
Yeah.
kind of timing of the process in MRC discussion, I'm comfortable making the motion as stated, unless anybody wants to make suggestions of something vastly different. Okay. I move that the commission, one, adopt the staff's recommendation in Exhibit B1 to refer all marine protected area regulation petitions to the department for review and recommendation. Two, supports the department in using the MPA petition framework considerations when evaluating the referred MPA petitions. And three, direct staff to coordinate with the department on engagement activities with other agencies of jurisdiction during the MPA petitions evaluation process, as well as tribes. So I made one modification.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Oh, could we request one very small but critical
Yeah.
Please.
modification? Under part 2, supports the department in use the MPA petition framework considerations. Add also the master plan for MPAs that you adopted inadvertently. We somehow missed that when we were working with the department as they were preparing their
Makes great sense.
considerations.
So my motion now adds that, adding the master plan.
And I'm happy to second that. So we have a motion by Commissioner Sklar, a second by President Murray. Sherry, could you read the roll call?
Commissioner Sklar,
Aye.
President Murray,
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Vice President Zavaleta.
Aye. So the motion passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone. And that takes